Kia ora, Year 10. In this video, I'm going to go over the practice task for numeric reasoning about buying a TV set. I'm going to do this one a little bit differently from usual. First, I'm going to go through really slowly how you can break the task down. And then I'm going to show you my own worked solutions instead of writing each thing out slowly. And hopefully that lets you see good ways to set your work out, especially how to use headings and explain what you're doing without writing too much waffle along the way. So let's have a look at it first. It's quite a long task, but I think it's quite clear what you need to do, maybe more than in the carbon credits one and in Mike and Huia. So I'm going to read this and I'm going to highlight it as if I were sitting there looking at this problem for the first time. Buying a new TV. Henry and his flatmate George have decided to buy a new TV set. They've decided to buy a Samsung 78-inch curved TV. Henry has located several options for buying it. So what am I going to highlight in there? Well, probably not that much really. They're buying a TV set and he's found several options for buying it. But before I go any further, I can probably guess what this task is going to be about. It's probably going to be about the cost, which option is cheapest, and then it's going to be probably about saving up the money and how long that might take. It might not be like that, but probably that's where this is going. Okay, option one, buy it in New Zealand online for $15,999. Now, I don't know who spends that much on a TV set, but there you go. So that's buying it in New Zealand. And there's a deal. So we've got 3/50 off the marked price. And then there's a delivery charge of $70. Nothing too complicated. Option two, buy it in a sale where they're having 9% off all items and free delivery. So there'll be no delivery charge, but there's going to be a percentage discount. And in store, it is usually priced at $16,350. Now, option three is to buy it in Australia. So right away, we're probably thinking, I might have to do some things with exchange rates in here. The TV set retails for $13,999, and he'd need to pay $250 for packing and special delivery, and then an insurance cost of 1.2% of its retail value. These costs are all in Australian dollars, and here's the exchange rate. And then we've got a little picture of the ad. Okay, so that's from a different website. And the first thing we're told to do is to calculate which option is the best deal. And as usual, the way that you communicate and set out your reasoning is going to be important. The task keeps on going after that, but this is a really important sentence. For the rest of this assessment, you just need to do the calculations for the best option. So first, we're going to find out which TV set is the best, and now we're going to work out how Henry's going to pay for it. Remember that Henry's got a flatmate called George. So Henry is splitting the cost of buying the new TV with his flatmate George in the ratio of 2 to 3. Calculate how much Henry will need to pay. And then Henry doesn't have all of the money at the moment, so he's going to borrow 65% of what he needs from his parents. He will need to pay them back, and he's promised to pay 3/8 of what he earns each week after tax. So you can see quite a few percentage skills coming in here. 65% of what he needs is going to come from the amount we work out once we've split the money with George, and then 3/8 of what he earns after tax. So now we have to say, well, where does he get his money from? Well, he's got 2 part-time jobs. He works at the local petrol station for 15 hours at the weekend, and he gets $13.95 before tax. Now that should say in there per hour. Well, that's certainly what I've assumed. It doesn't make sense any other way, right? If you think about the minimum wage, even for young people, there's no way that he could just be getting a total of $13.95 for 15 hours of work. So that should be $15.95 per hour. He also works as a labourer for a landscape gardener. His hours can vary between 18 and 30. but they usually average around 24 hours. And he's paid $18.30 an hour before tax. And his tax rate, Henry pays a flat tax rate of 24%. So the flat tax rate means that it doesn't matter if it's his first dollar of money coming in or his thousandth, the rate of tax is 24%. So now we have to work out how many weeks it will take Henry to pay his parents back. Now this is just a pretty basic task, but if you wanted to explore that a bit more, you might be able to look at what happens when you change what we assume about the 18 hours or the 30 hours. Because if he's working more hours, he'll be able to pay his parents back faster, and we can work out how much faster. The other thing we could do in here to look at how much the options vary is to go back to that Australian one. Where's it gone? It's my answers. Go back to this one and see what would happen if that exchange rate changed. Or we could look at what happened if the other things changed. I'm not going to get time to do that in this video though. So let's start now with going back to the options and working out what they cost to Henry and George. So option 1 is this one where we've got 3/50 off and delivery costs of $70. So here's how I set my working out. Right, my first comment, don't write comments like this to the marker, but honestly, who pays that much for a TV? So the discount, I can do this in 2 ways. Discount is 3/50 off. So we can do this in 2 steps. We can work out the discount and then we can get the new price. So that's the $15,999, take away the discount amount. And that leaves us with this number here. The other way we can do that is using a multiplier where we're saying 1 minus 3/50 is equal to 47/50. Okay, so 47/50 of the whole amount will get me to the same thing. And I've rounded that to dollars and cents. Next thing we have to do though is remember that there's a delivery charge. So that gives us the total cost of option 1 being this much here. So just have a look at the way I've used some headings to make it really clear to anyone else what I'm doing. So the first thing I did here is I just wrote down option 1. And then I said, what's the reduced price? What's the delivery? And what's the total cost? I could have added another word in here, which was the discount, right, if I wanted to. But I think it's okay without that. Right, so that gives us one number for option 1. Now we're going to do option 2. So option 2 is the TV that costs $16,350, but it's in a sale with 9% off all items. So this is a straightforward multiplier. Our multiplier is the whole thing, 100%, minus the 9%, which gives us 91% or 0.91. So the sale price is 0.91 times 16,350, which gives us our final price here. Let's look at option 3. Option 3 is the most complicated because it's got the exchange rate calculation. Now, I've done this exchange rate calculation using the arrow diagram that I've taught you in class like this. But for lots of you now, you'll be able to do this the faster way. Just make sure if you're doing that faster way that you look first and think about what your answer should look like. So we're told that 1 New Zealand dollar is worth only about 89 Australian cents. That means that if the TV is roughly 14,000 Australian dollars, our New Zealand dollar answer will be higher than that number, right? Because 1 New Zealand dollar is not buying us a whole Australian dollar. And it's really good to do that check before you do anything else. Otherwise you end up, as in the carbon credits one, buying 51,000 trees or something crazy. So always check your answer. So for option 3, we've got 3 bits in Australian dollars first. We've got the TV, we've got the packing and delivery, but we've also got this insurance charge, which is about $168, right? So this is 1.2% of the amount. Now, I think I've done that right. I'm just going to go back and check. Where are we? Yeah, so that's 1.2% of the retail value. So that means 1.2% of this amount. We don't have to pay insurance on the packing and delivery fee. So that gives me a total Australian dollar cost of this much. And here's our little arrow diagram. So we start with the exchange rate. And we need to get it the other way around. So for $1 Australian, how many New Zealand dollars will we need? Remember, we get that by dividing on both sides by 0.8911. And now we can figure out what $14,416.99 will cost us. That gives me a New Zealand dollar price that is much higher than option 2. It's $16,178.87. So things I've done here to make it clear what I'm doing, let me just get rid of all of those bits, is that down the side of the page, I've made it really easy to see. Here's option 3, and here's my total. So our cheapest is pretty clear now. It's option 2. We're going to do the rest of the work using this. Right, the next thing to do is to work out how much Henry and George spend. Going back to the question, what have we got? Okay, here we are. Henry is splitting it with George in the ratio of 2 to 3. So what does Henry have to pay? Well, there are 5 parts, and I've done this the fast way. I've said Henry pays 2/5 of that amount, which is this much. But he doesn't have to borrow all of that. He has to borrow 65%. So that's 0.65 of that amount, giving us this much to borrow from his mum and dad. So now how long will it take to pay it off? Well, he's got his 2 jobs, the petrol station one and the landscape gardening one. So in here, I'll leave this slide. You can pause this slide and have a look at how I've done it. But we can work out everything before tax. And I've assumed the average hours of 24. So 15 lots of the hourly rate there, 24 lots of the hourly rate there gives him a weekly income before tax of $648.45. Next, he's got to pay tax on this. So look at how I've done my setting out. A little heading here, just a few words showing what we're calculating and making it clear that it's before tax. He pays his tax, and that's 24% of that amount, right? So this is his before tax earning. The tax paid is $155.63, and so per week after tax, this is how much he gets. So now we've just about finished, right? How long to pay back his parents? Very nice parents lending him that much money. Henry repays 3/8 of that amount a week. And that's probably because he's still got to, go grocery shopping and stuff like that. He can't live off a TV set. So he pays them back $184.81 a week. How long will it take him to repay the loan? We take the total amount and we divide by this. That gives us 20.93 weeks. So he's going to need 21 weeks to repay them. So just a couple of things in here about accuracy. Let's have a think about Henry and George and what amounts we want to do exactly. Well, the TV set really is going to have to be an exact amount to dollars and cents, right? That's how shops work. So option 2 works out as being the best. And now Henry and George have to split that up. So Henry needs to be paying that much, and George needs to be paying the other 3/5. But when Henry goes to borrow the money from his mum and dad, maybe he doesn't borrow this much. You might assume that mum and dad say, look, just make the loan a little bit more to make it faster to work out, and they might lend him $3,900 instead. Okay, and then you could work that number through. If you're going to make that assumption, just say what you're doing. And then when we work that one through here, let's see, I think all the other calculations are exact ones where we need to do dollars and cents. It's just that one about how much money his parents lent him. And then again here, how much does he repay a week? Well, we're probably going to assume that he pays $185 per week. Okay, so we could do it to the nearest cent, but that seems very uptight. So it might make more sense to round that to 185. And then we'd have this 3,900 divided by 185. That's all I've got time for. Thanks for watching.